Prime Time Local News, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Welcome back, Lloydminster and region. We've got an election coming up very soon, a busy time in the world of sports, especially locally, and we get to take a blast from the past again with Retrospect this week, which is focusing on Animal Health Week.
Yes, from the 6th to the 12th of October, it is Animal Health Week across Canada, and every year they focus on something different, and this year is optimal nutrition within your animals, whether that be pets or livestock or exotic animals. It is very important.
Yeah, and she will have more on that later on with Retrospect this week. First, though, let's go to Eric Bay, who is on location today.
Well, today we are here at Fountain Tire, and I've just been checking out the vehicle today, looking at some of that winter car maintenance. And today here at Fountain Tire, we'll be taking a look at some of the things that you can do on your car, getting it geared up for winter. I know obviously that temperature is looking to drop here in the next few days, and we've already hit a little bit of snow this fall. So it's definitely something you're going to want to take a look at very soon if you haven't already. So we're going to have more on tires, batteries, and everything you can do to keep your car running in tip-top shape this winter. But before that, we're going to head back into the studio.
Thanks, Eric. Well, the 5th annual Sirens and Sapphires Gala was pushed to capacity Saturday evening, with business owners and community members coming out to support the Lloydminster Rescue Squad. Josh Ryan has more on what it means for the squad to get this point after 35 years.
Our chief Norm Manier.
A sold-out crowd was on hand for a colorful evening, raising thousands of dollars for the rescue squad.
We're super privileged to have the rescue squad here. They are not funded by the government. They do need the community's help. They do need individuals' help. They do need businesses' help.
Even more than the attendance, the number of donations was far beyond Chief Norm Namier's expectations.
We have over 120 items this year compared to 103 last year. We had phone calls saying, hey, there's something here to pick up. We'd love to support you. And it's been just a wondrous feeling.
It was also the 35th anniversary of the rescue squad, which brought back original members that can't believe how far the group has come.
We didn't even have a place to put the rescue unit inside, so we had a tarp on it in the wintertime, and you get a call, you have to go out, untarp it, get the ice off it, get it rolling, simple stuff like that you just don't even think about now.
While purchases made in recent years, such as a drone, have greatly improved operations, Namier says there are still avenues to grow.
Battery-operated tools so that we can, again, do more rapid extrication. Right now we just have the combination tool, but we'd like to get a separate tool for extrication, the jaws and the cutters and the ram.
There's also a desire to find new ways to improve their efficiency outside of equipment, such as focusing on key community needs.
We're always trying to come up with new ideas and how can we serve the community? What are the needs in the community?
You're going out there to help. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you look like. You want to help, come in there and pitch in and go.
And the evening is proof that the community has shown its appreciation in return.
It's pretty surreal that the community in such times like this can come together and be able to pull together and raise money for such a great cause.
Makes me proud to have Lloydminster as my hometown originally.
Josh Ryan, Primetime Local News.
The weather, it is one thing that affects everyone in the world, no matter where you are. We rely on the forecast each day, and at this week's Rotary meeting, a meteorologist from Environment Canada stopped by to speak about what really goes into a weather forecast. Our Jasmine King has more.
Terry Lang has been working for Environment Canada for the past 30 years, and she shared her knowledge about the weather and its effects to a room full of Rotary members.
Today I highlighted how the forecasts are written for the provinces of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, how they come about, the tools that we use, radar, numerical weather prediction, surface observations, that type of thing, just so that people understand that there's a lot of work that goes into writing the weather forecasts.
One topic she touched on that she says still has a lot of confusion is the difference between watches and warnings.
People get them confused with advisories and special weather statements, so we really like to highlight that watches mean that the potential exists for some bad weather, and a warning means the potential is been realized and we need people to take action right away. So as soon as you hear a warning, it's time to take action.
Lang also mentioned the amount of people who are behind the scenes in generating the forecast, as well as how many days in advance a human-generated forecast is made.
We only have a couple people that look after a very large region, and that does impact the quality of the forecast sometimes. As well, that days 3 to 7 are computer-generated forecasts as well, and I think a lot of people didn't know that, but that's just because of the number of people that we have trying to, make the forecast, that they have to be computer-generated.
With the topic now bigger than ever before, climate change was brought up at the Rotary meeting. Lang says the upcoming election and recent climate strikes has people asking her a lot more questions about climate change.
People really want to know, can a certain event be attributed to climate change? So, this particular hurricane, was that caused by climate change? Or that extreme weather temperature that we saw last month, was that, from climate change? But we shouldn't be asking, was it caused by climate change? More so, is it different because of climate change? Is it more extreme because of climate change?
Lang also says they look for a lot of contribution from the public for the forecast, and you can find more information on Environment Canada's website. Jasmine King, Primetime Local News.
The Lloydminster Comprehensive High School drama team is ready to go again. This time it's Mamma Mia. This is the 6th production the high school has done, but this time they're at the Vic Juba Theatre. Drama teacher Simon Stang says the hardest part is finding the right script.
Yeah, people always ask me what the toughest part of my job is. Choosing scripts is by far the most difficult because there's so much. No matter how good your actors are, or how bad your actors are, the choosing of the script is what, makes people come buy tickets.
With the new script comes new cast. For Ryan Jenner, she started as a helper with production. Now she's taking one of the main roles as Sophie. Jenner is excited to see her and her team's growth in the next few months.
It's crazy just to see it kind of come together. Like the first days when we're practicing choreography and stuff can be pretty hectic because everybody's at a different pace, but I think it'll all come together in the end.
Mamma Mia will be in the Vic Juba Theatre January 10th to the 17th. An exciting day for the Stingray Radio family with the announcement of the rebranding of 2 radio stations.
3, 2, 1.
It's official, Hot 93.7 and Hot 101.3 have now launched. Wainwright's Wayne FM 93.7 will now be Hot 93.7, the Midwest hottest music, and Bonnyville's Cool 101.3 will be Hot 101.3, the Lakeland's hottest music. The 2 stations will continue to play the hottest top 40 tunes of today, with some huge pop hits from the 90s and 2000s thrown in. Stingray will also be debuting The Morning Tub, a new morning show with Mauler Rush. For over 30 years, the week of October 6th to the 12th is known as Animal Health Week across the country. In this week's retrospect, we take a look at this year's focus, which is optimal nutrition.
We think that wellness exams and having your pet examined every year is the best way to go for your pet. The idea behind that theme is that us as veterinarians and you as pet owners, we're partners in trying to keep your pets happy, healthy, pain-free.
Flash forward to today, and the health of all living animals is still important to look after. This year, the main focus of this week is nutrition.
Just like us, we are what we eat, they are what they eat. And so there's different life stage diets. We have to be aware that puppies and kittens need completely different diets from a normal adult dog, from our geriatrics. They're all fed very differently, but also what their body condition score is. An overweight dog needs a completely different diet than a dog that is underweight. A dog with bad teeth, a dog with kidney issues. There is life stage diets for everybody, and it's very important that they are on the correct one.
This week doesn't just apply to pets, it also stretches to livestock health as well.
The main thing is we need balanced diets, and so we do a lot of feed testing to make sure that we have high enough protein, enough energy for the cattle and for horses, doing lots of feed testing so that they know exactly what is there in that bale or in that silage pit, and that we know whether we need to make any sort of additions and supplements so that they are getting a balanced diet.
A common misconception that pet owners have is treats and the amount their pet is given.
Well, the problem with a lot of that is it's higher calories calorie. I mean, most treats, unless they're actually a weight loss treat, they're higher calorie. And so if it's being used a lot, that can add on a lot of calories. We start to see obesity. And treats are fine, especially for training. When we want to have behaviors that are wanted, then we can use treats for stuff like that. At the same time, we have to be careful how many that we're giving.
If you're unsure if what you're feeding your pet or livestock is the right choice, contact a vet to get the right information on what to feed them. And that's it for this week's Retrospect.
Retrospect is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, and Lamont.
Now we're going to Eric Bay, who is on location today.
Once again, we are back here today at Fountain Tire, and with that weather starting to get a little chillier here in the coming weeks, we are talking about that winter car maintenance, and Dan Campo joins me here now. And so first off, I mean, tires, that's kind of a big thing this winter. So when should you be looking at getting those tires changed over to winter tires?
Well, actually, any time now would be a good time to get those started, start switching those over. We've already had the first skiff of snow, so we're starting to get a lot busier, and so any time is good right now to get them put on and not have to worry about wearing them out too fast here. So.
And now when you are looking at those tires, what should people be looking for if they are looking to buy a new set here this winter?
Well, we've got a few choices now. We do have a new line of all-weather tires, which you can run all year round as well right now, which give you a lot better traction in the winter as well. And ultimately, the best tire is your full winter tire, which will give you that ultimate traction in the winter as well, if you're wanting to switch back and forth between winter and summer tires there. So.
And now you mentioned those all-weather tires that could be run year-round. Is that something maybe an option for people with, say, four-wheel drive on their vehicles? Is that kind of maybe a preferred option there?
Either or. It just saves you not having to switch back and forth between summer and winter. Kind of gives you a bit of a option for not having to spend as much money, perhaps, or going back and forth. Yeah.
All right, thank you for this, and we are going to have some more from back here again, talking winter car maintenance here coming up this winter. But before that, we are going to head back into the studio.
Thank you very much, eBay. 15 degrees in the border city. Unfortunately, that's not going to last much longer. We're going to get way below temperatures that are average around this time of the year in the next couple of days. There will be a slight warm up a little later in the week, but expect a very significant drop. We do have a fair amount of cloud cover, and that'll give you a clue as we move into our next slide. 23-9 records back in 2003 and 1985. The wind calm at the moment. There will be some stronger winds again later this week. You can see here plenty of cloud cover coming in along with a low pressure system out from the mountains. That's making its way through Edmonton, where they've seen a little bit of snowfall. You could see some snowfall at points over the next couple of days. Keep an eye on your weather alerts, particularly from Environment Canada. A few regional temperatures as well. North Battleford's at 18 degrees, 15 in Cold Lake, and you can see there their highs for tomorrow. Much cooler than they are on the other side of the screen. So North Battleford dropping 16 degrees to +2 for a high, and Cold Lake also only at +3. So very cool coming up in the border city as well as the surrounding region. -3 at 8 a.m. It'll get about -1 at recess. And oh look, we're at 0 degrees by lunch, into the plus by the time people leave school. And that is going to be about as warm as it'll get tomorrow, with plenty of cloud cover again in the region. -3 for the low on Tuesday as the wind picks up out of the north-northwest. It'll calm down a little bit over the next couple of days, but the temperatures don't get much warmer. +1 on Wednesday with a low of -7, and then on Thursday a high of +5, and there is a little bit of sunlight expected that day, but -8 for the low. Certainly cooler than the average low of 0 this time of the year. Again, don't expect these temperatures to drastically warm up in the next couple of weeks. This could be the new norm moving forward into Halloween. That's been your 3-day forecast. We'll have your 7-day later on the show.
Welcome back. Well, Saskatchewan Agriculture Minister David Marit is leading a trade mission to Mexico that begins today. The 6-day mission will highlight Saskatchewan's canola, wheat, and cattle sectors and includes representation from Canadian Western Agribition and the Canola Council of Canada. According to the province, Saskatchewan is Canada's leading agri-food exporter to Mexico, accounting for almost 40% of exports. It says the mission will also promote research, investment, and other collaborative opportunities in Saskatchewan's value-added sector. And a Canadian researcher who co-led a study that challenges advice to limit meat consumption has responded to criticisms he should have disclosed past ties to the global meat and food industry. Dalhousie University's Bradley Johnston said Saturday that he followed the disclosure rules of the Annals of Internal Medicine, which published the work September 30th. Those rules required the report's panel of 14 researchers from 7 countries to reveal outside funding received within 3 years. The Halifax professor and epidemiologist says the last time he received money from the International Life Sciences Institute, an industry trade group, was almost 5 years ago, and that he has cut all ties since. And that's all for Egg. Sports is next. This past weekend, Holy Rosary hosted their senior girls volleyball tournament, with both Lloyd Comp and the Raiders took part, with both teams finding success. Our Evan Kenny reports.
It was all cheers in this game, but the Raiders squad has faced their ups and downs in this season, as well as in the tournament.
This will really test our limits and see if we can push past that pressure and break through and still play well and then go from there, I guess.
The Raiders only lost 1 set in the tournament before the semifinal matchup against the Lloyd Comp Barons. The Barons took the game in a tight 3 sets. The Raiders girls have struggled this season as a whole, not necessarily on the court, but more so with injuries.
I think we started off with a couple injuries, which wasn't great.
Well, there's definitely been a shift in who can play and who can't, and who's on the court and how they affect it.
And adding to that list of injuries, grade 12 setter Maddie Johnson. All the players out thus far made the Raiders pull an unlikely move.
For me, I didn't really make the cut in the tryouts, but then, yeah, all of their players are injured. And then I stepped up and I said, yes, I will play for you guys.
Pelagio played with the Raiders the last 2 years and was crushed before she got added to the senior girls roster.
That day that I didn't make the cut, I honestly cried about that. It feels like fate for me. I really wanted to play because it's my last year, right? Yeah, it makes me want to play more, be better.
One staple who has been on the team through it all, captain and star hitter, Janae Jordan. Jordan leads the team in kills and helped push her team to this point.
Well, we really have to step up and take that leadership role, but we've all been together since the beginning, so we're all pretty comfortable with that so far.
Holy Rosary finished on the podium with a 3rd place finish, while Lloyd Comp won 2nd. Evan Kenny, Primetime Local Sports.
Now we're going to Eric Bay, who is on location today.
Once again, we are back here today at Fountain Tire, and today we have been talking about some of that winter car maintenance you're going to want to take a look at here, especially as we are looking at a pretty big temperature drop in the next couple days. And Dan Campo joins me here once again, and so with that temperature drop comes the thought of batteries and definitely the chance of killing those here over the winter. So what should people be looking for here going into those colder months with their batteries?
Well, on average, your battery will have a kind of a lifespan of 5 to 6 years. So if you're getting close to that, definitely something you want to be aware of going into the winter month. Always advised to give one good charge. If you have that capability to charge up your battery once a year is always a good maintenance thing to do, just to give it the best life and best chance in the weather. So.
And now, are they able to bring it, say, here and get that tested here before it does get too cold and the possibility of that dying happening?
Yeah, absolutely. We can check that all out for you and give you our assessment on what status your battery's in for sure.
And now another thing that goes hand in hand with that is obviously block heaters, especially once it does get super cold coming up. So are people able to do anything to make sure their block heater is working smoothly for the winter?
Yeah, we can definitely check those out for you as well. A lot of the newer vehicles will have kind of an automatic thermostat in the block heater cord, which only kicks in at about -15. But we can definitely check those out and make sure they're working properly for you for sure.
And now obviously there's not much you can do when we do get that stretch of, -35 weather for a little bit, but what are some things people can take, maybe some precautions to help their battery keep alive here over the winter?
Well, like I said, the first thing I would do is just, if you have the capability of giving it a good charge, overnight charge on a little trickle charger there going into the winter months would be an excellent thing to do if you have that ability to do that. And other than that, they pretty much maintain their voltage pretty well as long as you've got a fairly newer, decent battery in the vehicle there. So.
All right, thank you for this, and we are going to have some more again back here at Fountain Tire talking winter car maintenance, but before that we're going to head back into the studio.
Thanks again, eBay. In your next 24 hours, a very precipitous drop in temperatures coming up, down to 6 a.m. down to 6 degrees rather, over the course of about 2 hours late this evening, and then we're going to be in the minus throughout the rest of the evening. Back to 0 degrees by around 12 in the afternoon, and then we're going to be around +1 and 0 basically through the rest of the afternoon, coming into the evening before darkness hits, and then of course back into the minus. A couple of chilly days coming up, largely in part, because of this low pressure system coming in from the BC area. A lot of cold wind and cold air being blown in, as well as a strong chance of precipitation. That's mostly affecting the western part of Alberta, as well as the southern part of Alberta as well. But that will eventually make its way across the border, and it's something to keep an eye on moving forward. And another look actually at your next 24 hours. This is a little closer in the region, you can see here. So by the time we get to midnight, a lot of cloud cover coming into play, and that should be the case then for the next 24 hours in the border city. Your current temperatures, 15 in Lloyd, 13 in Edmonton, 4 in Edson, Jasper already cooling down to 7, Whitecourt at 3, so that region obviously being hit quite quickly. Red Deer's still safe at the moment, 19 degrees. They'll start to cool down over the next 4 or so hours as well. In the Sask side of things, 17 in both Prince Albert and in Melfort, Saskatoon sitting at 19 degrees, and Meadow Lake at 15 degrees. So, North Battleford temperatures 18 right now, but they'll also drop quite quickly over the course of the rest of the evening. 0 for the low and +2 for tomorrow's high. Those winds also picking up, switching from the southwest to the northwest and back into the 20-kilometer range. In Cold Lake, no wind to report, which is nice to see, but they'll get some strong gusts over the next 24 hours, also coming out of the north-northwest. 15 degrees down to -3 overnight, +3 tomorrow, but they're expecting at least a couple of millimeters of snow. And in the border city, 15 down to -3 overnight. Again, calm winds at the moment. They'll get into the 20 or more kilometer range. 1 for the high, cloudy skies throughout. Not a strong chance of precipitation, but there is a chance certainly over the next 24 hours. +1 is also the temperature on Wednesday with a low of -7, +5 on Thursday. Then a little bit of a warm up, so not quite seasonal averages, but certainly warmer than what we are going to see over the next 2 days. +8 on Friday and +9 Saturday. Plenty of sun those 2 days, although the lows still stay quite cold at -6. 5 on Sunday, 6 Monday, and the lows at least will get a little bit closer to the average. A little more cloud cover as well, though, to come out at the end of those 7 days. So that's your 7-day forecast. Stick around after the break. We got question of the day, pet of the day, and more.
Once again, today we are back here at Fountain Tire, and we have been taking a look at some of that winter car maintenance. Obviously, that weather will be getting colder here. We've already had some snow, so definitely a good time to start thinking about this. And Dan Campo joins me here once again. Now we've hit on tires, we've hit on the battery, but what are some maybe an overview that people should be looking at, maybe just a checkup here going into the winter months people should take a look at?
Just your overall maintenance, I'd say. Just making sure your oil changes are done at the proper intervals. Brake checks, just general good maintenance on everything. We offer full mechanical here, so just make sure your wheel alignment's in proper order, not wearing off those new tires you just put on, and just a good maintenance package, yep.
And now how important, again, you did mention that, but staying on top of everything, how important is it to keep that consistent here as we do get a little colder going into the winter?
Well, obviously nobody likes a breakdown in the winter, so just keeping the vehicle running optimal there would be the best thing to do, and by checking your oil changes, getting the proper maintenance packages and stuff, we can definitely offer that for you. So.
And then once again, for people who may have missed it earlier, I guess what's the most important thing to be looking at here when we do talk about winter tires here going into the winter months?
Just obviously going to need some better traction going into the winter, and so you want to make sure you got the right tires on there, or make sure they're not worn out. And we do offer, like I said, all-weather tires and winter tires, and again an all-season tire if that's the way you choose to go. So.
All right, thank you again for this, and we're going to have some more from back here again at Fountain Tire, continuing with winter car maintenance and what you guys should be looking for here as we do get colder and start to look at some of that snow here as we do move into those chillier months of the year. But before that, we're going to head back into the studio.
Welcome back. So we have our question of the day, possibly one of the most commented on we've ever had. People feeling very strongly about the Walterdale Bridge protest this morning in Edmonton, where traffic was backed up basically for an hour and a half, starting in the early morning, moving on. Eventually the RCMP sort of negotiated it down to where they essentially left after a period of time. Most of the reaction hasn't been very positive, but the question of was this an effective form of protest, which is our question of the day. Thank you again for everyone who responded. That's the question, and it depends on whether you wanted to change minds or whether you wanted to start a conversation. If it started a conversation, you could argue it was effective.
Yes, it did get people talking, but did it get people talking about what it was meant to do? I would say no. I think it just made a lot of people upset because you had people who were trying to get to work. Maybe they had appointments to get to, whatever the circumstances, they all ended up being late. They had to be detoured. So it wasn't effective in people talking about it, but not about what they were supposed to talk about, which was climate change. And so it's not as effective as they should have went with it because it didn't end up having any conversation about climate change. It just made people upset.
Yeah, that seems when you look at the online conversation. Again, thank you for all the comments. There's actually too many to go through to that point. People were commenting on their frustration with what happened this morning. They weren't talking in any way about what the person's motives were, and mostly then some of it came back as sarcasm. So I guess I wonder what would be the way to do a protest like this? Is it to have pamphlets with information, something like that instead?
They need some form of information because all they were doing was just standing there. And they weren't saying anything about what they were doing. They didn't bring anything forward to suggest that you should listen to this and you should, maybe research a little bit more about this. They just stood there, and I don't think that's effective.
Yeah. And we'll see, certainly, as many other communities across the world were doing it, we'll see if that was indeed effective at some point. If you ask most people who commented online, probably not effective. We'll see how effective the cuteness of these various pets are, starting with Achi.
Very, very adorable looking face, just super cute and just an adorable dog.
Natus next.
Gorgeous, big green eyes, super adorable.
Followed by Buster and Jackson.
Probably best buds, and they probably do a lot together, super cute.
Harley, who seems to be ready for a wedding.
Yes, looking like she's ready to go on a walk with that adorable jacket, super cute.
And Evie to finish things off.
An adorable sweater for an adorable dog, just adorable.
Adorable indeed, plus you need the name of that pet for the gift card.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
Back in studio with me, Evan Kenny, for some sports talk, and it was a very, very busy weekend. It might sound cliche when I say that almost every week, but around this time of the year, obviously things pick up in the border city, and this is one of the busiest weekends we will see from local sports. Starting with Lakeland College, there was an exhibition game for men's basketball that took place at J.R. Robinson School in Vermilion. Then we also had a Lakeland soccer in-league games. They hosted the Grand Prairie Wolves, and it was a bit of a mixed weekend for the two squads. So a tie and a win for the men, and a tie and a loss for the women.
Yeah, the men were up 3 in the first game there, and unfortunately they ended up tying 3-3. They got all 3 of their goals in the first half, so it almost started to look like they were going to run away with it. And then in the second game, they really came back strong, especially defensively. The only goal they allowed on the Sunday was on a penalty kick. So the men's defense did an excellent job, and obviously backboned by ACAC All-Conference player Zach Wagner. So that was really good to see from them. For the women, they had a good bounce back. Again, they were also leading on Sunday. Ended up tying that game after a bit of a disappointing loss, 5-1 on the Saturday.
Yeah, and of course they almost got that win on Sunday, if not for a late goal to tie things up at 3-3 in injury time.
Yeah, it was injury time, and they actually also almost lost that game. A goal got called offside. Luckily for the Rustlers team, they did have a good performance though. They got the offense going early, scoring 2 goals in that first half, and you know, you love to see it from a team that's really coming on strong near the end here and pushing for one of those playoff spots.
And that's going to be the thing. If they're going to make playoffs, it's going to need basically an undefeated stretch from either team, especially the women. But even the men, it's basically almost a win-out situation to get one of those spots.
Yeah, the men still a couple wins behind Concordia, who they are playing in one of these last 4 games of the season. So they'll really have to battle back. I spoke with Coach Kevin Wagner on the weekend, and he said these are all must-wins. If you lose, you're out. So they're going to really have to push hard, especially against those teams like Concordia, like Nate, and Keano twice.
And they, of course, weren't the only Lakeland College team in action inside Lakeland as well. You had the women's volleyball team hosting their exhibition tournament, annual exhibition tournament, where they bring some of the top teams from the conference into play. And they had a pretty good weekend, ultimately. They played with split squads, which certainly ended up being interesting.
Yeah, it was great competition, and good to see some of the younger players get a chance to go in and succeed, as Lakeland College did go 6-3, so only 3 losses between 2 teams. That's pretty good, Josh.
And certainly, as you were kind of alluding to, so they have a younger squad and an older squad, the younger squad losing 2 of the games. Ultimately, there's a chance that some of those younger players could get into the starting lineup based on their play this weekend, but if they don't end up being in that main lineup, as Coach Austin Dyer in the past has typically let his main group of 7-8 players sort of play throughout the year. He often has girls redshirt their first year. It's still at least a good opportunity for them to get a little bit of experience. And again, they showed promise against some good teams like the St. Trojans, who played most of their A lineup, and the Briarcrest Clippers, Nate Ooks, a couple of other teams in action who they faced.
Yeah, it's good to see those girls, just in case they do get thrown in, they have that experience against some of those top-level teams.
And of course, we'll be looking forward to seeing the main group play. Obviously, Avery Maginell, Brooklyn Bame and Bailey Wheeler all looked strong, and they have a big weekend, not this weekend, but the following one, where they host the Kings Eagles to kick off the ACAC regular season.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Back for some more sports talk with Evan Kenny. Now, we had a busy hockey weekend as well in the border city, starting, of course, with the Junior A Cats, who had a pair of heartbreaking losses.
Yeah, Friday they took on the Whitecourt Wolverines and had a 1-0 loss. So it's good to see that they're defensively getting more responsible and improving. But they really got to help out goaltender Josh Diaz there, as, again, he got peppered with shots and the Bobcats couldn't put one up.
And then on the other flip side, you have a game against Bonnyville where it's one of the better games they've played this season, particularly late in the third period, but all of the goals occurring in the first in a 2-1 loss. And as you said, you would love to see them continue this defensive play, but they also at some point have to learn how to score, because almost every one of their losses this season, barring the start of the year, have been 2-1, 2-0, 3-0, all games where they're getting great play out of DS, but they're just not generating enough shots.
For sure. This weekend almost reminds me of the Grand Prairie series, where they went to a shootout and couldn't produce, and then they lost 1-0 the next night. The game against Bonnyville, it was probably the best game I've seen from the Bobcats this season, and I believe that head coach Nigel Dubé would agree with me. They played a solid 60 minutes, just got into a bit of penalty trouble as both the Pontiacs goals came on the power play in that first period. In the third period, they dominated. They started taking the physical game to the Pontiacs, and some of those players, a little more skill guys on the Pontiacs, really didn't like that, and the Bobcats started to open up scoring chances. Actually scored in the last 2 minutes of the game, but the goal got called off, unfortunately, for the team.
And that's a result, obviously, that you'll need to reverse. You need that effort, certainly, and that type of execution moving forward, but without getting a couple of wins, it could be another long season for the group. If they can't start putting the puck in the back of the net. Another Bobcats team in action, the Inland Steel Midget AAAs, opened their season with a win on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, 7-4. They took on CAC, which is an Edmonton-based club. And it was good to see the offensive explosion from the team, and that's a lot of good prospects for the Bobcats. One thing I would have liked to see, though, is a little tighter defense. It was almost like a shootout in that first period. I believe CAC scored 2 in the first period, while the Bobcats, they got 4 in that first period. So I would like to see them tighten up quite a bit, but they are a young team. Lots of players coming up from that Bantam AAA program, including Mazen Leslie, who is a 14-year-old player. So typically 14-year-olds would play another season of Bantam. Last season he had 50 points, as well as the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League Defenseman of the Year. So he was a standout for that AAA club.
And we'll expect him to continue to grow, of course, with this particular squad. Less than a minute now. Quickly, what were your thoughts on the first couple of games of the NHL season? Anything stand out to you or surprise you thus far?
I like it so far. Honestly, this might come as a hot take, but Tampa's doing better than I thought they would. They've had a couple, a little bit of a turnaround this summer, getting some new players, losing a couple. So, and as well as the hype coming into the season, I honestly did not think that they were going to repeat what they did last season. But so far, so good.
Okay, we'll see how that develops. I don't know if I'm totally with you on that. But what I am pretty interested in seeing is the Edmonton Oilers start. Obviously, they started the season 2-0. Can they maintain that? And you'll basically see the development of the mood of every Oilers fan, whether it turns into the normal sort of despair or they finally have a little bit of joy come April and May.